Good afternoon and welcome to MEFA's webinar, College Planning for High School Juniors. And I'll add high school juniors and their parents because at this time of day, I believe it will be some parents on the line. But this will be good for either students or parents. My name is Julie Shields-Rutina, and I'm the Director of College Planning at MEFA. And I have been working in higher ed for over 30 years. And on a personal level, I have a college senior and a high school senior. So I'm very much in tune with this whole process and all the things that students need to be thinking about and parents need to be thinking about, and I'm happy to share. So MEFA is a not-for-profit state authority here in Massachusetts, and we help families to plan, save, and pay for college. No matter what age your student is, we have information to be able to share. And there's so many ways to stay in touch with us, so please do so. Please go to our website, give us your email, and we will send you information that is relevant to the age and stage and grade level of the student twice a month. So you can sign up for our college planning emails. You can also go to our website, call us or email us with questions, or follow us on social media. We also have a number of in-person events in the community. So if you go to our website and look under the events tab, you'll see that. MEFA also has a free web portal for students called mefapathway.org, where students can go in and they can play around. It's very interactive, take assessments to learn about their interests and skills and goals, and then they can search for careers and for colleges so they can begin to think about some possible pathways. And within this great tool is also a lot of great financial aid and scholarship information. Students can create a resume and lots of other tools. So it's really a very robust system, and we invite you to try it and play around with it, and hopefully it'll be very helpful as you think about next steps after high school. So today we'll talk about some current trends in admissions. We'll talk about creating the college list, the list of schools that the student will apply to. We'll also talk about campus visits, the application process, and financial aid, and what you can be doing now as a junior or a parent with a student who is a junior up front to plan financially for college. And then I already mentioned some of the free resources we have. So what are the trends in college admissions right now? One is that it's become a much earlier process. So it used to be that students would apply to college in, say, the January timeframe, hear back from colleges about admission, say in the March timeframe, March or April, and then let colleges know of their final decision by May 1st. That process still exists. That's the regular admissions process, where a lot of the admissions application deadlines are in the January timeframe. And it still remains true that students have to let colleges know by May 1st. That's the National College Decision Day. But many colleges have an earlier application process, which is a choice, so that students can choose to apply to college earlier. And we'll go over what some of the differences between those processes are. But a number of students start applying to college in the fall now. Also, students are applying to a greater number of schools than in the past. And one of the reasons for that is that the Common Application, which we'll talk about, allows students to put all their information in one application and then send it to multiple colleges. And so it makes it a little bit easier to apply to more colleges when you can do that. And the other reason that some students are applying to a greater number of schools is that the admissions process, especially at the selective college level, has become very competitive. And so if a student is applying to Ivy League schools or other very selective institutions that have fairly low admissions rates, it is a good idea to apply to a few more schools to make sure that the student always has options and choices in senior year. You'll hear me say that a lot. I think it's all about having great options and great choices. Also, because students apply to a greater number of schools, on the college side, there's something called demonstrated interest being a factor in the admissions application. And what that is that now that colleges know that students apply to more schools, they're not always 100% sure that if a student submits an application to their institution, that the student is really interested in attending. Maybe that's the 5th or 6th choice. So the college has a little less trust in the fact that if they admit that student, the student will attend. So that brings up why demonstrated interest is a factor. That the more contact and communication and touch points that a student has with an institution, the more confident they feel that the student is really interested and that the student didn't just say, okay, I'll add them at the last minute, to my common application because my friend did or something. So the way that a student can demonstrate interest is to connect with the college, whether that be because a college rep comes to their high school, because they go and visit the institution, maybe they participate in an online chat, maybe they make send an email or a phone call requesting some information. All of those things can demonstrate real interest and can be a positive factor. And then I addressed the competitiveness already. Admission to public institutions has become more competitive as well. Sometimes cost is a factor in that, and that students really feel that they need to have an affordable college option, and every student needs to make sure that the choice they make is affordable. And so for that reason, admission to public institutions has become more competitive as well. Let's just say with this trend, students should be driving this process. I know it's become so complicated that we as parents really get very much involved in this process. And I think that we need to support our students. We need to be helpful in many different ways that I'll talk about as we go. But it really should be the student driving this process, and we can help them along. So let's always be mindful of that. And lastly, social media is a factor for all of us. And that's good and bad in the college admissions world. So it's good because it really allows students another way to connect to a college. They can follow the college on social media and really see what's happening on that campus. Really good source of information. And as I mentioned, there are some Twitter chats and Facebook Live events and things that students can participate in, and really, if they can't visit the campus, feel very much connected. Those are wonderful things. Now, on the negative side, I will just say students should make sure that their social media profiles are very much how they would like to portray themselves to a college, a job, a grandmother. I'll leave it at that. Now, staying organized with this process is a great thing. So this is MEFA's College Application Manager. You can print this from our website, or you can create your own spreadsheet. But I think it's nice as a student begins visiting colleges and decides that they're going to apply to a certain number of colleges to keep an organized list of the college, of admissions deadlines, of financial aid deadlines, of everything that's required in any notes. Because if a student is applying to 6 or 7 colleges, it can get very confusing, and every college can do things a little bit different. So student really wants to keep track and not let something fall through the cracks. So, developing the college list. There are so many ways to do that. Students have all of these resources that they can access online. So I mentioned MEFA Pathway. Some other resources are collegenavigator.gov, collegescorecard.ed.gov, and bigfuture.collegeboard.org. So students can go in and really try to filter out colleges that might be a good fit by academic major, by size, by location, by geographic region. And this is a great way to get started looking at colleges. And as a student goes through and narrows down that list, these are 3 really important things to keep in mind. One is very important, that the student needs to make sure that the college that is on their list has their intended major. Do you want to be a nurse? You need to go to a nursing program. So that sounds easy. The only thing I'd say is that many students don't know their intended major, which is absolutely fine. So in that case, the student just needs to do a little more exploration and have an understanding of, will the college curriculum be able to fit what the student thinks they might like to study in college, and a loose career path and a loose path toward their future. So important to look at all of that. A second that's very important, institution size and location. And I think students will get a sense of this a little bit better when they start visiting colleges, which we'll talk about. But size is hard to know until you are on a campus and you visit a class and you see what it's like walking around, and to get a sense of, does it feel overwhelming, or does it feel exciting, or does it feel nice and intimate, or does it feel too small? You know, those kinds of things you can really feel when you're on a college campus. And importantly, students need to know, do they want to go far away from home, or do they want to be a quick car ride away from home? Is there local transportation? Do they want to go really far away? And does that mean they can only come home a couple of times during the year? All those things are important. And do they want to be in a major city, or would they rather be in a more rural location? And so very important to think about fit. And financial fit, coming from MEFA, where we are experts in college financing. It is just absolutely necessary to make sure that the college that the student attends is a good financial fit for the student and for the family. And so we'll give you some tools to make sure that that is part of the application. It really doesn't do a student any good to get on a campus, find they really can't afford it, and have to drop out a year later. So important to keep that in mind. So again, a student is going to be visiting these colleges, doing this research, and in the fall, then when it comes time to apply to college, they want to have a list of schools, and they want to have schools in these categories. Most of the schools on the list should be schools that they will probably be admitted to. And there needs to be at least one on that list that is affordable. Does that mean it's a community college that has lower tuition and fees? Does it mean that it's a school that the student can commute to? Or is it just the price seems affordable? And we'll talk about how to assess that. Most of the schools should be there. The way a student can get a sense if they would be admitted is to look on the college and university websites about what the class profile looks like the last couple of years. That way the student knows, did the students who were admitted have a 3.0 GPA, or did they have a 3.9 GPA? Or did they have a wide range, a 2.5 to a 3.5 GPA? They can get a sense of who was admitted in prior years. If the college requires SAT scores or ACT scores, what scores did the admitted students receive? So that gives a student a sense of if they will probably be admitted to that school or not. That's the bulk. But absolutely, this process is not just based on grades and scores. It's very holistic in some cases. And so students should certainly, if they find schools that they're not sure that they will be admitted to, they can certainly apply to those as long as they feel they're somewhere, in the profile of the students who have been admitted in the past. So they can have some target schools on their list, and they can even have some reach schools, some schools where, let's say Ivy League schools are reach schools for every single student. Ivy League schools and schools that are very selective receive thousands more applications from qualified students than they can admit. So they end up being reach schools for everyone. So those schools can definitely be on a list, but need to be balanced by probable and target schools. So I talked about getting to know colleges. Visiting the campus is one of the best ways to do that. Now, if you can't, you can do all those other things I mentioned, but if you can get on the campus, that is terrific. That gives a real feel. Go for a formal visit where you go to a presentation and you go on a campus tour with a student. You can ask the student lots of questions, and students will be really honest with you about their experience. My kids and I really liked the tours the best. And even as you're just starting out, it really gives the student an idea, even if let's say from Massachusetts, the student wants to apply to a college in Ohio. They can pick a college of a similar size here in Massachusetts, visit it to see if the size works. You get a sense of that before you start to spend some money and travel. We're lucky here in Massachusetts to have so many different types of institutions. Ask so many questions on campus. Pick up a student newspaper, see what's going on the campus on the weekends, eat in the cafeteria, sit in on a class if you can, all of those things. And then another nice way to, if you can't visit a certain college, is to check out some college fairs. We have some college fairs here in Massachusetts. You can go to NACAC.net and NEACAC.org for college fairs. The NACAC, Boston National College Fair, is here in Boston, April 4th and 5th. You can find out that information down in the Seaport. And there are colleges from all over the country who attend, and the student can walk up and down and talk with college reps without having to spend a lot of money and travel. So MEFA also has written a blog about how to navigate a college fair. There are 350 colleges in a big space. It's hard to know sometimes. So go to the MEFA website, check out one of our recent blogs on navigating a college fair. So then I mentioned the different types of applications. I mentioned that college regular decision processes usually mean a student will apply in January, hear back in March or April, and make their decision to the college by May 1st. Early action just means that the process has some earlier deadlines, and a student can decide to apply early action. Usually early action deadlines are, so there's one in November, and the student can apply early in November and will usually hear back before the holiday break near the end of December. So that can be nice if a student feels ready, they feel like their academics are where they should be, and they feel ready to do that, early action is a way to get some of these answers a little bit earlier. And there are some programs I've heard in nursing, engineering, that really fill up their classes early in the early decision process. In the early action process. So again, take the time to look very carefully at all the details, the colleges you're applying to, so that you don't miss something like that. Now, early decision is something a little bit different. Early decision is and let me go back, early action, then you find out about your admission status earlier, usually in December, but then you still don't need to let the college know until May 1st. Early decision is something very different. Early decision is a binding contract you're making with an institution. So when you apply to a college early decision, what you're saying to that college is that if I am admitted to your college, I will accept, and I am going to withdraw my applications from any other institutions. That's really what you're saying. Now, that can be helpful in the admissions process because I mentioned about demonstrated interest. What a better way to demonstrate your interest to a college than in saying that, right? However, what that means is that you are giving up what we always talk about as some important pieces, which are options and choices. You really have to be 100% sure you want to go to that institution. And you have to be sure that you can pay for it and that the finances are going to work for you. I am going to talk with you about how you can find that out early on before the end of this webinar, but it is an important factor there. You really need to make sure. It's a lot to be able to say that, yes, if I am admitted, I will come. And so then once that happens, the whole process is over, and that can be a really great thing for some students, but it can be hard for others to not know what they would have heard from other colleges or what financial aid packages they might have received. And then rolling admission is just that some colleges say we open our admissions process on a certain date and you can send in your application anytime. In those cases, I would say it probably helps to send in an application on the earlier side. Sometimes money, financial aid could run out, but again, they will accept applications throughout the whole process. An open admission is that I say that our community colleges really have open admission in that being a graduate of high school and sending along your transcript means that you can go to a community college, and that is terrific. You may not be able to get into every single program at that community college because some may have limited numbers, may be somewhat competitive, but the student can always go to the community college. So that is open admission, where there's not a selective admissions process. So what is your application? The application is usually the application form, which can be a number of things. It can be the Common App that I talked about, commonapp.org. It can be the Universal College App, Coalition App, or it could be just the college's own application, which can be online or paper. So again, the student would want to go to the college website of the school they wanted to apply to and find out what application is used and use that. And in addition to that form, the high school transcript is required. Some colleges will require standardized test scores like the SAT or ACT, and some won't. I'll talk about that. Most colleges will require letters of recommendation from 2 faculty members, sometimes an activity list or resume. Most will require a personal essay, sometimes multiple. and some may require an interview, or at least allow an interview. And if a student is applying into a specialized program, sometimes that even means an audition or a portfolio, such as theater, music, art. So let's say for a community college, a student may just need to submit the online community college application and a high school transcript. So it could be as simple as that. If the student is applying to a highly selective institution, it can include everything that's on the right side of your screen. So standardized tests, again, find out from the college that you're applying to what their policy on standardized tests is. And all colleges, if they accept standardized tests, will accept either the SAT or ACT. Students usually take the PSAT junior year, get their scores back, and then can really use that as a way to practice and study for the questions that they could use a little more help on. And then usually students will take the SAT junior year in the spring and possibly again in the fall, same with the ACT. Students can study for both, or sometimes students will decide which test they like better. The tests are slightly different and just study for one. The best way to prepare for these tests is to do practice tests, timed practice tests. So they get used to the speed and how the questions are asked. And there's a lot of free test prep. So the SAT offers free test prep online, as does the ACT. SAT subject tests are something that some colleges require. Not a whole lot of colleges require them, but if a college does, then students should take those. And sometimes students are taking AP classes in high school, and then they should take the AP exam to go along with that class. And that can sometimes be used for college credit or to skip out of an entry-level class and jump to a more advanced class on a college campus, or allow the freedom. Sometimes they can get credit and allow them freedom in their schedule. Letters of recommendation. So the most important factor here is to ask for a letter of recommendation from a teacher who knows you well. Should be, many times it's junior year teachers in core subjects, your English, math, science, language, history. Sometimes there are exceptions. If a student has a really good reason to go back to a sophomore teacher, something else, but in general, colleges like to see two academic teachers from that are recent. This spring is a good time to ask. Your high school will let you know what the procedures are in your school, and then have the student follow those, request the recommendation, and continue to follow up with the teacher, and of course thank the teacher. Interviews. Not all colleges require an interview. In fact, more probably don't require an interview than do. But if the student is applying to a college that requires an interview, the student needs to do that. So go online, find out when those interviews take place. You wouldn't want to miss that. Sometimes it's in the fall of senior year. Sometimes it's after you apply, and an alumnus will give you a call and have an interview in a location close to your home. It ranges. So find out from the school what the policy is for interviews. And really there are also two types, informational and evaluative. Informational interviews are really as much for the student to find out information about the campus. So let's say you book a campus tour and information session. The college might say, would you also like to have an interview? And the student might say, sure, meet with someone one-on-one to ask questions about the campus. That can be a great way to really get an additional understanding of the campus. Sometimes that's informational. But sometimes it could be evaluative, and what that means is that really the person interviewing you is going to make some notes, and that's going to be part of the admissions process. Students really should try to relax and be themselves. You know, these interviewers are going to ask you, what are you doing? How are your classes? What do you do outside of class? What books do you like to read? What do you and your friends do together? It's going to be conversation that is relevant to your life. The two pieces of preparation I always say are to make sure you know about the school so that you don't ask a question, say, about a program that the school doesn't have or something like that, because that will show that you didn't really pay much attention. Secondly, just to give some thought to yourself. Give some thought to what you enjoy, how you're spending your time, what you like, what you don't like, what books you read lately, all of that, just so that you have given it some thought before you sit down and get asked a question, and then that's not the first time you've thought about that. So other than that, try to relax. So after you apply, then what will happen is the college will get back to you and let you know whether you've been admitted, deferred, denied, or waitlisted. So admitted, cause for celebration. Deferred could be if you applied either early action or early decision, and the school is saying, we're just not going to make a decision yet, we're going to put you in the regular pool. And that's fine, and then you would hear again later. Denied is that you're not accepted, and waitlisted is that you're not accepted, but your application, was good enough that you could have been. We had too many people. You're on a wait list. So let's just chat about all of that a little bit. This is a very hard time of year, senior year, winter, spring, for students, because it feels like there's so much judgment, so much pressure. Who likes to hear that, oh, you're deferred, we're not going to make a decision on you yet, or worse, you're denied, or you're waitlisted? So you can see 3 out of the 4 of those answers aren't really cause for celebration. So I just share that the more parents, students, you can talk about the fact that this is just a process. It's just a process, and it has no relevance on who you are as a person, what your future success is going to be. Every student goes through this. It's the rare student that I have spoken with who hasn't received all of these answers from a variety of different colleges. And it can feel good and bad and mixed and all of that, but most students experience all of it. So the key here is what I said at the beginning. Just make sure that you have a number of schools on your list that you are happy to go to and that you have a fairly good chance of being admitted, so that you lean toward receiving more admissions letters than denial letters. Lastly, my last comment on that is that just because on the Common App you can add more schools to your list, make sure that you like every college on your list and that you could see yourself there and you think it could be a decent option for you. There's no use putting a college on your list that you don't feel that way about. All right, now we'll talk about the finances. Here are some pieces of information you want to know about a college, and it's good to know these early on. So junior year is a great time. What is the cost of attendance and the net price? So the cost of attendance is everything: the tuition, the fees, the room and board, books, supplies, transportation. That's an important number to know. However, the net price is the amount you're actually going to pay, because many colleges have financial aid, both merit and need-based, and so it's more important for you to know what are you likely to pay. So those sites that I showed you at the beginning can give you some sense of that, of what families in your income range on average pay. What is that net price? And I'm going to give you a calculator in a moment. So that's a good number to know. What's an estimate of what you're going to pay? And then what financial aid applications are required and what are the deadlines? So we'll talk about that. And then what kind of financial aid does the college have? Do they do all of their financial aid based on financial need and the information you put on these financial aid applications? Or do they have merit-based aid? Do they award aid based on your academics and sports and community service and all of that? Most schools offer a mix. And then I'll share some websites where you can look at private scholarships, outside money as well. Although let me say, the bulk of the financial help you receive will be from the financial aid process. So I mentioned that schools offer both merit and need. Merit does not mean you need to be the valedictorian. It's just that it means that the college would like to admit you because of your academics, your artistic or athletic abilities, you fall in the top half of the admissions pool, all of that. And so merit awards are wider than you would think. But if you receive a merit award, you do want to find out, is it renewable? And you have to keep a certain GPA to keep it. And on the right, need-based aid is awarded based on the information you submit on the financial aid forms. And it can be federal, state, and institutional aid. So one way to get a sense about what you might be asked to pay at these colleges, what the net price will be for you as a family, is to use these great tools called net price calculators. Every institution has one, so go to a college website and type net price calculator into the search, and you will put in some information as you will on a financial aid form, but sometimes it may ask you about grades and SAT and ACT scores, and then it will give you an estimated net price that will show you on in an estimated way the level of federal and institutional aid that you might be able to receive. And again, it's an estimate. It's a year early or multiple years early. So I don't think you should make any hard and fast decisions based on this information, but it helps. It's really good information so that you make sure, students, that you have a college list that has many options and some affordable options. So for example, I used these calculators and I found varying financial aid packages would be given to my children. And so I didn't say to my kids, you can't apply to that school. I did the net price calculator and it showed you weren't going to get any aid, you were just going to get a loan. But what I did say to them is, I did the net price calculators. At this school, it showed that you weren't going to get any financial aid except a loan. I don't think that's affordable for us. So keep that in mind, that let's get some schools on your list that we're sure you can afford so that you will definitely have options in the spring. The worst thing I would want to do to you is that you get your heart set on this one institution and the financial aid that comes back doesn't make it affordable. So again, trying to keep my kids' minds open and my own mind open. So here are the financial aid forms that you will use to apply for financial aid in the fall of senior year. These forms both open up October 1st, and because the information on the forms is from the completed prior year's tax return. So for example, when you're applying for financial aid in October of 2019, you'll be using 2018 tax return information. Hopefully that's done, locked up, copy in your drawer or online. So you can really start to complete these forms soon after October 1st. So every college requires the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. So you can get to completing that. That's online at fafsa.gov. sorry if you can't see the website there, but FAFSA.gov. And then the CSS profile form is an additional form that some colleges require, mainly private colleges. But again, this is where you want to look on the college websites and make sure you find out exactly what forms are required. If the college requires the CSS profile, then you must complete that as well. MEFA has a significant amount of information about the college financial aid process. So please come back, attend our future webinars, come to an in-person event, call us with questions. Happy to help with all of this. One piece I like to just put out here, because there are questions, is that when a college awards a financial aid package, most times they're going to award a federal direct student loan as part of that package. So hopefully a financial aid package consists of grant or scholarship, which is free money awarded, the best kind. And then hopefully maybe a work study award that will allow a student to work on campus and get paid to help with some of those miscellaneous expenses. But most will also include a federal direct student loan. And that is a loan where the student is the borrower. There's no credit check done for that. It's a fixed interest rate, changes annually. Right now it's 5.05%. And it's two types, subsidized and unsubsidized. The subsidized portion means that no interest accrues while the student is in college, and unsubsidized means that interest does begin accruing immediately, but they all have the same interest rate. What will happen is if you accept the loans, students will then be asked to do some online entrance counseling so they understand the loans that they're borrowing and talk to them about what it will mean and what the repayment could be afterwards. It's very good to have your student really look into these details so that they understand what they're getting into. Freshman year, a student can receive $5,500, sophomore year $6,500, junior year $7,500, senior year $7,500, and which totals about $27,000. And what that means when a student graduates and starts repaying is that it would be about a $300 payment a month on the regular repayment plan. But there are other repayment options, some even based on income. So there are choices in how students pay that off. Just really important information to know. And then I mentioned that students can start to look for private scholarships, sometimes smaller scholarships of $500 or $1,000. Students should definitely check with school counselors about local scholarship information, and never pay to have someone find scholarships for you. These are free websites, and students can usually just start to collect information about some scholarships they can apply for, and then use some of their same essays, all of that. Once they have their college information together, it's somewhat easy to send in a few scholarship applications. So I've listed some websites. And then I just have to add that here in Massachusetts, we have a really great program called Mass Transfer and Commonwealth Commitment. And this is a way that a student can start at a community college and have almost automatic transfer to a 4-year public or sometimes private college in the state. And with that are, an easier transfer process where credits are applied and there can be cost savings as well. And so here is the website, mass.edu/masstransfer, and all of the information is there, and this can make getting an education in Massachusetts very, very affordable by going through one of these programs. So take a look at that. I highly recommend looking at that. That website is terrific. And then Tuition Break is a program from the New England Board of Higher Education, where if a student, we don't have a program here, a specific program here in Massachusetts, but it's in one of the other New England colleges, students can then go to that other college for in-state college tuition prices. Another great way to save some money. Additionally, it's not listed here, but for example, now University of Maine has an agreement with Massachusetts schools so that if a student from Massachusetts goes to the University of Maine, they can do it at in-state Massachusetts prices. So there are all kinds of things like that out there. So do your research, and as we said, it's another option, another really good option. Here is a timeline. So I'll leave that there for a moment, and I have attached the presentation. I will also send all this information afterwards, so you'll receive it. So what you can do now is you can sign up for MEFA emails that I mentioned, research some colleges, pick a few, go on a campus visit. Students, you can set up a profile at mefapathway.org, and you can also look at additional webinars from MEFA. Connect with us on social media. Thank you. If there are any questions, please, you can type them into the chat feature. And I'll wait a moment and see if there are. And if not, I will say thank you for listening. And please know we're here as a resource for you. Thank you.